Hello again. Today I'm going to be talking about one of Joel's prophecies. Now Joel is a prophet in the Old Testament, and his prophecy in Joel chapter 2, he said this: I will show signs and wonders in the heavens and on the earth, blood and fire and columns of smoke. The sun shall be turned to darkness and the moon to blood before the great and terrible day of the Lord comes. Now, that great and terrible day of the Lord could be talking about the rapture, could be talking about the second coming, but the moon is said to turn to blood. Now, we know that Neil Armstrong has walked on the moon, so he didn't get his feet covered in blood. The moon is just a reflecting surface of the sunlight, which we see in the sky. The actual phases of the moon, whether it's a new moon or a full moon, depends upon the Earth's shadow. Now, I'm going to have to play hide and seek a little bit now, because I've got an illustration here which I'm going to lift up, and I'm going to have to peer from behind it, so excuse me. When you have an alignment of the sun and the Earth and the moon, in other words, they're in a straight line, then the sun's light cannot get through to the moon. Now, cannot get through, the word in physics is eclipse. So if you've got the sun's light unable to reach the moon because the Earth is in the way, it's an eclipse of the moon. And this is what it looks like. Let me just see if I can get that there. I'm peering behind it for you. Now you can see the sun there and the Earth, and then the moon is in the Earth's shadow, and not much light gets through to it. But some light does sneak through, but it has to go through the edge. Let's see if I get my finger in the right place. Yeah, there. Which way am I going? There. It has to go through the edge of the Earth's atmosphere, and the atmosphere there is thick, and so if you know anything about light, it refracts, it bends, and different colours bend to different amounts. And the red light from the sun, because the sun gives white light, the red light of the sun manages to get through and light up the moon, which is otherwise in complete darkness in the Earth's shadow. So it says there on the sketch, red light passes through and falls onto the moon, and that makes the moon look like it's turned to blood. Now this happens in what's called a total lunar eclipse, and there I've written light from the sun has to pass through the thick Earth atmosphere, therefore it's red. Now these total lunar eclipses occur about twice a year. The last one was on the 19th of November 2021, and the next one is on the 15th of May 2022. So if you can keep, kind of put a photograph of that in your memory, a blood moon is caused when the moon is in the shadow of the Earth, and only red light from the sun can sneak through the thick Earth atmosphere. Now there's a reference in the top corner there, Joel 2:31, which is what I've just read, and Peter quoted Joel on the day of Pentecost in Acts 2 and verse 20. Now that's the background. What is a blood moon? It's not really made of blood, it's when the moon looks red, and it occurs, as I say, about twice a year. There is nothing supernatural about a blood moon. The only thing that becomes supernatural in fulfillment of prophecy is when these blood moons occur on Jewish feast days. Now, of course, we have to look at when I've quoted two instances of when blood moons occur, November 19th last year and 15th of May this year. But they don't make any sense if we're on the Gregorian calendar. We've got to use the correct calendar. So when we look on the Jewish calendar and see when the different feast days are, Pentecost and Tabernacles and things like that, feast days like that, and when you see a blood moon on a Jewish feast day, then something's going on. Now, this happens very, very rarely, but when it does happen, and it happens in a sequence of 4, one blood moon after another blood moon, is called a tetrad. Now, there's only been in the last 2,000 years 8 tetrads where the blood moons have fallen on the Jewish feast days. Only 8 in the last 4,000 years. So when do these happen, and are they significant? We'll be looking at this more in detail in following videos, but we know from Genesis 1:14 that the moon and the sun and the stars are for signs and for appointed times. That's what the word seasons in the King James, it's appointed times. So when those blood moons occur on the appointed times of Jewish feast days, then we know something's going on. And especially when you get one after another, after another, after another, a tetrad, T-E-T-R-A-D. Now, believe it or not, the first of the tetrads within our lifetimes, or in mine, because I'm an old guy, was on the 13th of April 1949, and that was the first of 4 blood moons. But you realise what happened about that date. It was the establishment of the nation of Israel, and the next set was in 1967, which was when Jerusalem was recaptured for the first time by the Israeli army. So it does occur. It is a sign that something major is happening when you get blood moons, and especially tetrads of blood moons. We'll be looking at this. You're going to enjoy it, and I'll see you in the next video. God bless. Bye-bye.